everybody, it's Lori here, and I have a really fun story for you today. And boy, you guys, tomorrow you get to go to school if you go to Chico Unified, and I bet everybody's excited and probably a little scared, or probably more excited, and haven't seen your friends in a long time. And boy, it's going to be really exciting for you guys. And one of the things I was thinking about over the last 7 months is, boy, playing was a lot different for you guys. You didn't have your friends all the time. You had to get inventive and you had to use your imagination. And it made me start thinking about when I was a kid, what did we do? How did we use our imaginations when we played? And one of the things we played a lot when I was little was a game called Follow the Leader. And the way it worked was we took turns being the leader. And one person would be the leader and everybody would line up behind them. And then we'd go up the block and one person would be the leader, and whatever they did, that's what we did. So if you were the leader, you got to pick. Nobody else got to pick but you. It was all your choices, and everybody else followed along. And sometimes it'd be super fun. So you might start off by doing cartwheels across somebody's lawn, and then maybe you had to jump over a bush, and then maybe you would have to hop on your one foot singing Jingle Bells in an English accent, and then maybe you would have to climb a fence and jump off of it. And then maybe you walked along the sidewalk with one foot in the curb and one foot up on the sidewalk, and you go up and down, up and down. And it was most of the time really fun. And sometimes you would have to like be hard and yucky, and it's like the big kids would say, okay, now we're gonna kiss a worm. And so that was the true test if you were willing to kiss the worm or not. So sometimes following the leader was a good thing, and sometimes it wasn't a good thing. And that made me think more then about leaders. And we have different leaders in our lives. Some of the leaders we have are your parents, your mom and your dad, anybody who takes care of you, your teachers, coaches, babysitters. They're the ones that you are to follow because what they have for you is something they know is really good for you. And leaders, when they're leading, they expect the followers, which is you, because it's follow the leader. There's one leader and everybody else is followers. There's a leader, and the leader expects you to do what they ask you to do. They expect you to listen and to do as they do. And so we have leaders that are humans, but we also have God as a leader. And Jesus talks about this really specifically in Matthew. In Matthew 16, he's telling the disciples some really hard news. He's telling them that it's almost time for him to die, that the leaders in that day were going to arrest him and kill him, but not to worry because he would rise on the third day. And Peter, he was his follower, and he said, no, that can't happen. And Jesus said, yeah, it's going to happen. That's part of God's plan. I'm following God's plan. I'll rise on the third day and it'll be good. But for a moment, Peter was being a rebellious follower. He wasn't saying, okay, Jesus, I trust you. I'm going to go along with that. And of course, everybody would say, no, that's going to be so horrible and awful. And Jesus knew that, but he knew what was on the other side. He knew that Easter was coming, and he knew he'd be rising again, and he knew he was doing it for us. So he said, Peter, don't get over it and follow me. And so when we follow Jesus, it's easier, I think, most of the time to be a leader. Because when we played Follow the Leader, I would get to pick and do exactly what I wanted. So but when my brother was a leader, he was older and bigger, he would try to make things too hard for me sometimes. He would say, okay, we're going to climb the tree, and he knew I couldn't reach from one branch to the other, and it'd be harder. And so sometimes I didn't really like what he chose, but a follower did it anyway. So I would do it, and I would just be glad when his turn was over. But sometimes in the challenges that we would do, like one time we would climb a fence. I remember climbing our neighbor's fence, and then they'd say, jump off. And the first time, I could barely climb the fence, and I kind of needed a boost. And then I was too afraid to jump off, and somebody kind of, pulled me off the fence. But the first time I was able to do it on my own, it was amazing. I felt great. I felt like, wow, I conquered that one. I can do it again and again. And every time I did it, it became a little bit easier. So being a leader is harder, I think, than being a follower. Sometimes being a follower Or, I mean, I'm sorry, but that backwards. Being a leader is easier because you pick. But when you're a follower, you got to do it if you really want to or not. And in the Bible, you know what Jesus says? His words are, if you want to follow me, you must deny yourself. And what's he mean by that? He's saying, if you want to follow me, you're going to do as I do. You're going to live like I live. You're going to live for others like I'm living for others. So, because there's two ways of living. Jesus and man are a little bit opposite. Jesus is nothing but good, and he wants the best for everybody, and he lives for others. But people, we're kind of selfish, and we want what we want when we want it, and we want it our way. But Jesus is saying, if you're going to be a real follower, you got to give that part up and do it my way. And the way I want you to live is to live for others. I want you to be like me. Jesus was always generous and helpful and kind, and he was always trying to give people what was best for them. And that's opposite of what our nature is sometimes. Sometimes we're really selfish, and sometimes I don't want to be kind, I'm tired, or you're bugging me, and so sometimes I might be a little bit mean, or sometimes I'm not very forgiving, and sometimes I'm not very helpful. I pretend like I didn't see it or I didn't know, and that's not following Jesus. Following Jesus is saying, even when it's hard, I'm going to follow him anyway. Even when I know this is harder for me to do, I'm denying myself, meaning I'm not doing what I want, I'm doing what Jesus wants and what I know Jesus wants me to do, and I know Jesus wants me to be helpful. And when I live like that, it's sort of like that first time I jumped off that fence, and I felt like, wow, that was incredible. I can't wait to do it again. And every time since then I did it, it got easier and easier and easier. And when you follow Jesus, it's just like that. The more you practice it, the more you confront the challenges. Like, I don't really think I can do this, or I really don't want to do this. This is going to be hard, but I do it anyway. Jesus shows us he's going to help us through it, and he's going to help us, and we can do it. So every time it gets a little bit easier, and a little bit easier, and a little bit easier to trust him that he's going to help us. So to be a true follower of Jesus, we're going to deny what we want, and we're going to pick what Jesus wants, which is only the best. Because I might say, you know what? I think I really want peanut butter and jelly. And he's saying, no. What you really want is this giant roast dinner with chocolate cake. I'm going to give you better than what you want. You might think this is good, but what I'm going to show you is even better. So trust him and follow him. So this week, I hope you follow him as much as you can. And when it gets hard, just ask him for help. Have a great week. I'm so glad you guys get to go back to school, and we'll see you soon. Bye.